quilting friends. Happy Feature Friday, everybody. Thank you guys for joining me in my sewing studio today. I appreciate y'all being here. I am working on a quilt top right now, and something just happened and I thought, I probably need to do a Feature Friday video on this and share with everybody because we have a lot of new Butler users out there and they may not know how to use this feature. So we have a thread break feature available in your stitch out screen, and I just ran out of bobbin thread while I was stitching. So we are going to use that feature and fix our bobbin thread issue. I'm going to turn you guys around and show you what's going on. So I was stitching out this leaf pattern with kind of big swirls and noticed that my thread ran out here. I've got my top thread, so that means I am out of bobbin thread. So normally I have, let me start this up for you guys real quick so you can see. I've got this big red button on the bottom of my display, and so when I noticed that I was out of my bobbin thread, I hit my big red pause button and I ended up with these two options. And we are in the thread break issue right now because I'm out of bobbin thread. So I am going to hit thread break. And when I do that, it says move to where your thread broke and press OK. So my OK is over here. I've got my check mark. And when you hit thread break, it does release your machine from the motor so you can move it where you need to fix your thread problem. Since I have a bobbin issue, I might kind of slide off to the side because I have space over here on my frame so that I can replace my bobbin. But also, you know, your thread break is if you have an issue with your top thread. So my top thread's over here. It's pretty accessible, but some of us have long arm machines where our thread is all the way back here. So you might need to move your machine to be able to access that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just clip my top thread and move my machine off to the side. Pull up my little bobbin thread tail that's hanging out there and clip that off as well. And I'm going to move my machine off to the side, and I can now fully access my bobbin area down here. I'm going to pull that out. And that is definitely an empty bobbin. So I'm going to get a new one and replace that. And then we can go through our Butler screen and go through the motions of getting back on track. So we have a pretty seamless pickup of where we ran out of bobbin thread and can resume stitching. You can see all of my little empty holes that I have where it was stitching without thread. So let me grab a bobbin. All right, so I replaced my bobbin, and now we are going to move back, because remember our display said move to where you had your bobbin or your thread break. So I'm going to move back to where my stitching left off here. Now I'm not going to go right to the last stitch. I'm going to move back about 3 stitches so that they overlap, because I don't want anything to unravel here. So I'm moving back about 3 stitches, but I'm getting my needle as close to being on that line of stitching as possible. And now that I'm there, I'm going to hit my check mark. And my robotic system is going to double check with me and ask if this is where I want to restart my stitching. I'm going to hit my check mark to say yes. And now we're going to go through our normal stitching routine where it's going to have us do a single stitch. So I'm going to use my needle up, needle down button on my handlebars and do my single stitch and hit my check mark. And now it says I can pull my bobbin thread up. So I'm going to move my machine out of the way slightly, grab my top thread and just pull my bobbin thread up so that I've got both of those. So I've got both of my tails now. I'm going to hit my check mark on my display. My robotic system is going to recenter over that point for me. And now it says cycle my needles. So I'm going to cycle my needle with my needle up, needle down button. I like to do that 3 times. You can do what you want, or if you're someone who buries their stitches or buries their threads, you can leave your tails long and skip this. Hit my check mark. And now I can turn my stitching on and my machine will start moving after I press my check mark in the center. So I'm just gonna pull my tails off to the side because I know we're gonna be stitching kind of in this direction and I don't wanna stitch over them. I'm gonna turn my stitching on my machine and hit my check mark. And it is tracing right back over those punctures that we had when we had no bobbin thread, and it is continuing along just fine. So you can see here, I need to clip my tails, but I just have an overlap of about 3 stitches and it picked up right where we left off. So that's super handy if you either break your thread while you're stitching or you run out of bobbin thread while you're stitching and you catch it right away. You can hit your pause button at the bottom of your screen, hit your thread break, repair whatever your thread issue is, and then keep on going. Okay, so let's look at the other way we can fix things when we either have a thread break or our bobbin runs out. Now, I walked out of my sewing studio and let my long arm just continue on. And when I came back, my bobbin thread ran out somewhere around 3/4 of the way between my row, but it finished stitching out the row with no thread. So how do we fix that? Let me show you guys. So I came in because I heard my machine stop. So it wants me to turn off my stitching. I'm gonna turn that off and hit this. I am at the cycle my needle point, but I've got no thread. So I'm just gonna skip that step because we've got some things to fix. So you can see I've got stitching all the way up to, let's see, it looks like it ran out here. I've got some big hunks of thread that I'm gonna need to pull up and get off my quilt top. And there are lots of teeny tiny puncture holes that are gonna need to be filled back in with actual stitching. So it did make it all the way to the end. So I have no bobbin thread and it looks like my top thread got tired of pretending and got a little tangled up and messy over here. So we're gonna have to fix that as well. So we'll have to do a little rethreading of our machine and get that back in order. Let's see, I don't know that I can do this with one hand, but I'm sure gonna try, you guys. And I generally don't put like teeny tiny bobbins in my machine, but since we're doing this together today and I wanted to make sure I got both methods of fixing your thread issues, in this video I did put a teeny tiny bobbin in my machine so that you guys could see both happen. Normally I put very full bobbins into my machine, but I am guilty of playing bobbin chicken. So I will run it down until it truly runs out. And that kind of makes me an expert at using both of these methods because I am constantly running out of thread in the middle of my stitching. I very rarely end up checking my bobbin when necessary. I'm gonna put you guys on the tripod so I can thread this needle because I am just not skilled enough to do it today with one hand. So I'm gonna get that in there and then we'll get a full bobbin into our bobbin case this time so we can finish out stitching our row. There we go. And I've got just enough room over here where I can pop my bobbin case out. Empty bobbin. And I've got a full one right over here waiting. We'll get that in place real quick. And then I will show you guys how to restart when we've ended a row with no stitching. This is not a pause or thread break issue because we don't have pause available to us. So what we're gonna do this time, let's see if I can get you in camera on the tripod. So what we're gonna do this time, since we finished out our whole row, we have to restart our stitching. So we're gonna go into our green start button because we have to restart. But this time, we're gonna set our start location. So I'm gonna hit set start. And it says move to your desired start point. So So we are actually going to move along to where our stitching left off. I'm gonna get you guys down again. And our stitching left off right here. So same as a thread break, I'm gonna look at my end stitches and I'm gonna back up about 3 stitches, line my needle up there, and that is going to be my start point. So I'm gonna hit my check mark. It's now going to cycle through just like we're starting all over from the beginning of a stitch out. We'll do our single stitch with our handlebar, needle up, needle down, hit our check mark. We'll move out of the way to pull our fresh bobbin thread back up. So I've got that. We'll hit our check mark on our display. Oop, we're gonna move back into place. Line back up for us. We'll cycle our needle. So like I said, I cycle my needle 3 times. You do what you're comfortable with, or if you're someone who buries your thread tails in your quilt, you can leave them long and just skip this step. And then I can turn my stitching on my handlebars and hit my check mark on my display. And you can see that we have picked our stitching right back up where we left off, and we are running the rest of our design. So we didn't have to start all the way at the beginning. We fixed our thread problem and used that set start button to pick up where we left off with our design. So unfortunately, thread breaks and empty bobbins happen. Sometimes they happen to me a little bit more often than I would prefer because I'm naughty and I do not check my bobbins when I should. But hopefully this helps you guys out, especially all of our new butler owners, so that you know how to fix those problems when they happen. You always have your big pause button and your thread break if you're in the middle of stitching and you see it happen, and you have your set start point if you were out of the room, didn't notice it happened, and it finished out a row, and you have to set your start point to redo the rest of the row that didn't make it with thread. Thanks so much for watching. Hope we learned something today, and we'll see you guys real soon.